Brought to you by Euli Kim and Ian Jeong Studios. Riot Games' League of Legends is a free-to-play online game released in October 2009. Despite being released more than a decade ago, it is one of the most popular games in the world, attracting players from all over the globe. Currently, the game has an active player base of 180 million people monthly.
Yet, the League community is also notorious for being one of the most toxic and isolated player bases in gaming history. We believe that user preference for brief, symbolic communication, built-in anonymity, and use of jargon to shroud implicit meanings all contribute to the general distrust among players that makes League's player base more an amalgamation of players rather than a community.
The core gameplay of League of Legends faces two teams of 5 players against each other in order to defend their base called a nexus. Teamwork and defending are common throughout online multiplayer games. However, League is special in how players communicate. In League, players don't communicate via traditional methods such as voice calls. This is partially due to the game's old release date and the inherent toxicity of its player base.
League players instead rely on typing in a text chat and placing visual markers on in-game terrain. Even though teamwork is crucial to winning in League of Legends, there isn't much of a disposition towards community building. When new players enter the game for their first time, the default preset for the chat blocks all public messages from both teammates and enemies alike. This is intentional by Riot Games to keep player toxicity from discouraging new players. Furthermore, once the game ends and statistics are shown, there's a chat where both teams can reconvene and talk. However, the permanent default preset for this is that the chat is covered and a button must first be clicked to reveal those messages. Text chat is only one facet of communication, however. While it's a good place for conversations, giving feedback, or having long-winded arguments, the real essence of League communication falls on pings.
In the heat of battle, there is no time to type a long message. Instead, players briefly yet succinctly get their intentions across using the many visual markers on the ping wheel. Although there are many pings for different situations, they're still somewhat limited in the information they can convey. This is why certain pings have evolved over time to encompass an entirely different meaning from their intended purpose, one of these being the question mark.
Originally meant to signal when an enemy is missing, the question mark ping's purpose has adapted to encompass many meanings from bewilderment to praise, but it's most used to shame. Whenever someone makes an embarrassing mistake or a bad play, it's almost rule to ping with the question mark as it represents someone questioning their actions. In this clip, the player accidentally wastes an important ability that teleports them a short distance and is immediately subject to pings. In this case, the creativity and adaptability of League players has led to the creation of a negative use for a ping with neutral meaning, and also the normalizing of monitoring and shaming other players' performances. This is one of the major contributors to League's reputation as a game with too much team pressure and frequent conflicts.
Following the question mark ping, the next featured ping is the blue ping. With no inherent meaning, what's special about the blue ping is that it is completely anonymous. Unlike other pings which leave behind the record in the in-game chat, the blue ping leaves behind no such ties. This way, even players who avoid interacting with teammates to ensure that they aren't the receiver of toxicity can safely participate in the coordination of their team. However, this also means that players can shame or annoy other players without ramifications. This emphasis on quick, clear-cut, yet anonymous communication isn't just restricted to pings. League has its own form of voting, appearing in 2 forms. One is when an important objective appears, and a pop-up shows up where teammates can choose to either take it or not.
Another is when a team wants to surrender. Once again, a pop-up appears where teammates then vote on whether they would like to surrender or not. In both cases, votes are anonymously cast and decisions are made with just a single click. This is put in place as a preventative measure against the average League player's volatility. If someone votes to take the objective at a bad time, resulting in the entire team dying, that player will not be blamed. Surrenders require 4 yes votes to pass, and if votes were not anonymous, players would be singled out and pressured to vote yes or no. While these measures do have noble intentions and prevent immediate blame within teams, they generally make League players more distrustful and suspicious of each other, which doesn't help when you're trying to build a friendly community. Often, players will stop trying in a game to instead try and figure out who made a mistake or who isn't voting to surrender.
This toxicity is one of the most notorious aspects of League of Legends and its community. The nature of having a community where members meet entirely through an online platform where people are largely defined by their in-game performance inevitably gives way to significant day-ruining conflict. It's why community sounds so weird to League players, considering many isolate in-game and try their hardest not to interact with each other, as a preemptive measure against other toxic players of the community. And what's special about League is their creativity put into using League lingo as a cover for toxicity.
But before we get into that, the expansiveness of that lingo must first be understood. League has 167 unique playable characters, over 200 unique items, and hundreds of game-specific words and slang. The sheer volume of terminology League has to offer does also have a darker side. Players have adapted to using terminology to mask implicit meanings while also avoiding consequences. Here's a popular example. This is Talon. He's League's version of a European assassin, and because of this, one of his abilities, his E ability, lets him vault over terrain, a very useful ability. Rather than just simply telling someone to inflict self-harm, which is easily detectable by moderators, a common message is to instead tell someone to Talon E out of the window. Another example utilizes KDR, or kill-death ratio. It's quite common to see someone tell another to go 0-1 IRL, implying that they should commit suicide. With 167 characters in League, each with at least 4 abilities, more of these illusions are sure to appear. And while in a twisted way this may be a form of satirical humor for some in the player base, many others believe that the nature of attempting to subvert moderators signals a deliberate attempt to toxify the community.